let's put up the map. You'll see we have 31 states where medical cannabis is legal. We can also add Guam and Puerto Rico. Okay, could we change the map? Now, we have only 9 states highlighted, including some big ones like California and Colorado. This is where both medical and recreational cannabis is legal. You can put up Washington, D.C. up on the board too. So we've got a long way to go to reach full legalization. That hasn't stopped this industry from experiencing explosive growth though. Revenue has quadrupled between 2014 and today, hitting $10.8 billion. Let's talk about jobs. Right now, cannabis businesses employ 200,000 Americans. That trend is not going to slow down either. Forbes is reporting that by 2020, we could have more cannabis jobs in the US than manufacturing jobs.
Danny, you hit the nail on the head. When I'm talking to politicians, cannabis jobs are a major selling point, but so is the tax revenue. Colorado, perfect example. Since 2014, they've collected in the neighborhood of $815 million in tax revenue from cannabis. That's not $815 million in sales. They're ringing up billions there. That's $815 million in just tax revenue. Colorado poured that money into infrastructure projects, plugging holes in budgets, healthcare. Heck, $21 million was handed to law enforcement. The police are using cannabis tax dollars to keep the streets safe. And the biggest chunk of this cash, $200 million, has gone toward building new schools. Out in Deer Trail, Colorado, there was an elementary school that was falling apart. Sewage leak in the locker room, swimming pool wasn't safe, school doors wouldn't lock, no wheelchair ramps. Disabled kids had to be carried up the stairs. Thanks to all of those cannabis tax dollars, Deer Trail got a new elementary school.
If cannabis is already a $10 billion industry in America, it's creating all of these jobs and tax revenue, yet we're still at the very beginning of this boom. How big could it get?
Look, this rapid growth is happening while cannabis is still quasi-legal. The federal government is holding the industry back in a serious way. But even if nothing changes, our guys are projecting it will reach a $50 billion mark within 5 years.
What if something big does change? What if the federal government legalizes cannabis? The prohibition is done.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It's inevitable. Voters want it. Economic benefits are too big to ignore. Now, I got to choose my words carefully. But what I'm hearing behind closed doors is pretty sensitive. Let me just say this. I have a strong suspicion we won't be waiting 5 years to see the federal government legalize cannabis. When that happens, whenever that happens, our guys are saying the industry will double practically overnight.
$100 billion just in the United States.
$100 billion. Like I said, practically overnight. Long term, the numbers are off the charts. Those 200,000 jobs that Danny just mentioned, with full legalization, that number could hit 1.1 million jobs. And $100 billion in revenue, we might just blow past that.
Globally, this could become a $1 trillion industry, simply because it affects so many others. The pharmaceutical industry is good for another $1.1 trillion. Alcohol, $1.3 trillion. Food and agribusiness is already a $5 trillion industry. When we get full legalization, you are going to see the floodgates open in these industries and so many more.